So what we're going to be doing here is making the canvas upper for the winter moccasin. We should all have a finished pair of lower moccasins that we've already made, and we'll put those aside for now. We should have a chunk of canvas, a lower 1-inch cotton binding tape which goes on the bottom. We should have a decorative ribbon of your choosing, a Lure the North logo patch, 50-inch ×2 top ties or cotton, and 9 meters of wraparound lace. And then you may have chosen to go with beaver fur for the top or coyote, and those can be put aside as well. That's the finishing touches. And you'll also have a boot liner, which will go in your lower winter moccasin. What won't be included in your kit is a sewing machine, and you should have a well-serviced sewing machine and read your owner's manual for tips and tricks. Good pair of sharp scissors, some pins. We use the color number 22 Gutermann thread, just a regular weight. You might want a black thread to contrast your decorative ribbon or binding tape. A stitch ripper, hopefully you won't have to use that. And I like to use a diaper pin for lacing my top ties, but any regular safety pin will work. A pen or pencil, a soft measuring tape, and a coffee. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to do is measure the circumference around your lower moccasin, and that's going to be your ankle measurement. So we used to have this tongue out of our vamp for our moccasin, and we've gone ahead and trimmed that. So if you drew an imaginary line across from each tick mark, then if you went from the center, you'd go up 1/2 inch, and then just draw a nice gradual arc and cut in that line. And that's just going to allow, if you picture your 3D foot, it's going to allow the moccasin to raise up on the top of your foot. So the first step is to measure our ankle. So we're going to go across the vamp and just let your tape follow along, just nice and naturally across the edge. And you're going to stop at the tick. So that's, we've gone one lap around. I've got 18 1/4. I'm going to write that down. And that's going to be my ankle 1. It's good to mark on the inside of your moccasin, number 1, just in case they're different, because the canvas doesn't stretch like the hide will, so they might have to be 2 custom uppers. And I've got 18 on this one. So I'll put my number 2. As long as they are within about 1/2 inch of each other, that's fine. That's perfectly normal. It just depends on how much puckering you've done, and it kind of takes up the ankle a little bit more than others. So this is the photo that we're going to be drawing. So I've got my ankle measurement. We've got our piece of canvas that we're going to fold in half. We're going to draw our ankle at the bottom and our calf at the top, and this will be our height. We have a sewing line, and then we also have a cutting line. If you don't have a serging machine, then you need to leave a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then we'll trim it off after. We've got our ankle, so now we're going to get our calf measurement. So that we need to put on our boot liner. So I'm going to, with my soft measuring tape, make a loop, and I'm going to try that loop on, so pretending that this is your upper moccasin. So as if you were to put it on with your boot liners on, and you have to imagine too you're going to be wearing your thick wool pants. So just try it on and off and make sure that it's comfortable. You don't want it to be too tight because then you're going to struggle to get them on and it's going to be really frustrating. But you don't want them to be too loose either because then they're going to be baggy and look sloppy. So anywhere between, depending on your calf size, anywhere between 18 and 21 is sort of the sweet spot I find. These aren't for me, they're for size 11 men's, and so I'm going to choose 20 as my calf size. Okay. So we'll record that on our sheet. Calf is 20. And now we need to find our height. So we're going to take our lower moccasin. You don't need to use your boot liner. Just slip it on your foot. And you're going to start measuring at the top of the moccasin and go to the bottom of your kneecap. So that's where most people like their moccasin to sit. It's gone around the thickest part of your calf, and it's going to sit right below your kneecap. Obviously, if you go higher than your kneecap, then every time you bend your knee, it's going to rub. So just below your kneecap is where we're going to go. So for me, that would be about 13 and a half. Since this is for somebody else, I'm going to go a nice even 15. So we'll record that as our height. Okay, so now we've got our ankle and our calf, but we have this fold of canvas. So the height is going to be the same, 15, but we need to add 1 for the roll down. So when we tuck under the canvas, we need to make sure that our height's going to stay the same. So that's going to be height plus 1. So plus 1, that's going to be 16 inches for my height. And because we have this fold, we have to divide the calf and the ankle by 2. So my calf wants to be 20, so in half I'm going to make it 10. There. And then our ankle 1, we'll call it 18 and a half, so that'd be 9. What's half of a quarter? 1/8. So 9 and 1/8. You can use centimeters if that's easier for you. And we're going to mark it out on our canvas. Over here, hope you can see that, yeah. Over here I've got this 2-inch straight down. So from the top, we're going to measure out our 10. Then we're going to measure out our half, so it'll be 10 and a half. And then from here, you're going to go 2 inches straight down. And that's because when we do our roll down, if we tapered from here right away, then we're going to have more canvas here than down here. So we want to make sure that they're going to be the same so there's no puckering. So it's going to be a 2-inch straight line. And then from this line, we're going to connect down to our sewing line and straight down to our cutting line. So I'm going to mark that out on the canvas and we will go from there. Okay, so I've got it drawn out here. This is my 9 and 1/8. We've got our fold here. I've got my 10 up top, and then I've gone straight down 2 inches, straight down 2 inches, ½ inch wider, and then I've connected from this dot down to my 9 and 1/8, and then extended it 1/2 inch. So this first line is going to be my sewing line, and this outer line is going to be my cutting line. For the height, you don't need a seam allowance because we're actually going to tuck under once we're doing our roll down. The last little cut is down here. We're actually going to we're going to make a mark 1/2 inch up from the ankle fold and 2 inches out from the fold. And that little triangle, when you open it up, is going to just allow the rise of the foot. Again, just like we did with our lower moccasin. So you can pin this if you're not confident in your cutting so that it doesn't slip while you're cutting it. Otherwise, cut it and make sure you mark it number 1 if your ankles are different, and then when you trace out your second one, you'll make sure to mark a number 2 on it. Okay, so I've got both uppers cut out. Now we're into the pinning stage. So we're going to open this up. So this line, that sew line, that's going to be the inside of your moccasin. So we're going to open it up and do all our pinning on the good side. So we've got our binding tape. It's 1 inch wide, and we need to pin it on either side of this open edge. So I recommend going heavy on the pins, especially if this is your first time using a sewing machine, especially around this rise. So this is where most people make their mistakes. If the binding tape slips, then you end up sewing your binding tape closed, but you've missed the canvas. And the reason we're putting this around the edge is because this is a woven fabric and it will fray. So we're going to take our pins. Where did they go? Oh. Ah. We're just going to fold it in half over the edge, and I like to put my pins running inline. Some people like to put them perpendicular. Whatever you choose, just make it consistent. So I like this way so that when you run it through the machine, you can remove your pins before you get there. That's just my preference. You can do as you please. And when you get to this center rise here, just go heavy on the pins. So something like that for the amount of pins for the rise, and then just keep going. Okay, I've got my binding tape pinned. Now we're going to pin our decorative ribbon. So for most uppers, I usually go between 5 and 6 inches down from the top. Depending on whether you're putting fur or how tall you are, but anywhere in the 2/3 quadrant looks good. So for this guy, I'm going to go the 6 inches. So just make a mark on one end in the center and at the far end. Straight down, and then that way when you pin, and then you have to decide and remember whether you're going above or below the line. I usually go below the line. When you pin it, see how it might miss that mark, so when you pin you can just move it up, and it's especially important on either edge so that when you fold it they're going to meet up at the back. Okay, so I've got both of my uppers pinned, and I'm ready to sew the binding tape on. And you can decide whether you want to use a blending color or a contrasting color. I usually like to do the same cream color as the canvas. That's your choice. You need to read your manual for your sewing machine because every sewing machine is different. But you want to make sure you start with a full bobbin and you've threaded your needle correctly. Most people's mistakes, if you hear a clunking in your machine or the thread keeps breaking, check and make sure that you've gone through all the steps to thread your needle properly and that your bobbin is coming out the back. I use a straight stitch for pretty well everything on the upper, and I usually use a length of about 2. So to start it, you don't have to worry about tucking the edge under, because remember we've got that 1/2 inch seam allowance, so we're going to do a zigzag over top of that. So make sure that you put your foot down. That's another mistake that most people do, is it starts bunching all up, and then I'll walk over and notice that their foot is up. So there's a lever at the back that moves the foot up and down. So we're going to put that down, find my foot pedal, and we're just going to go nice and slow. You go 5 or 6 stitches, and then you're going to reverse it. Some people's reverse you have to hold, some people's are automatic. This one's here. Go back, and then as you go, take your pins out, put them in your pin cushion. No one appreciates pins in the feet. And we're just going to go slow. Take your pin out before you get to it so that your machine's not running over it. You're getting close to that rise, and you're just going to spin your piece. You can even go even slower if you feel like you need to. You can hand crank your machine, and that moves the foot up and down manually if you really want to take your time. When we get to the end, you'll go back again, and that's it. You cut your thread. Some machines have a handy cutter on the side, if you didn't know that. Trim off the edge and inspect. Make sure you've caught it on both sides. And if you haven't, it's a simple matter of just going back over it again. Looks good here. Trim off any of your tails. And you're ready for your decorative ribbon. Just make sure that you've got at least 5 or 6 inches of thread behind you. Otherwise, when your machine starts up, it's going to spit out your thread, and then you're gonna have to spend time to re-thread it. With this decorative ribbon, I do 2 passes, one on either side, and I usually pick whatever color thread I'm using. There's usually a contrasting or a matching shade. So in this case, I've got this, taupe band. So my goal is to run it along the band. Forward and back a few strokes. Your last few stitches you can do by hand to get to where you want to go. And then I just keep the needle down and then spin my work. Go up high and then manually find where you want to be. Lift your foot, spin it. Back, and that's it. Lift your foot, pull your thread and cut it. And all of our moccasin kits come with a Lure of the North patch, so if you want to support us and these videos, you can sew that on with pride. And For this heavier leather, I increase the length to as long as it can go, and I usually start it manually. And just go on all four sides. You can fold up your work so that it fits in this space. Take your pin out. And then go back. And that's it. Okay. So you'd think you'd be ready to go into a tube now, but we have to do our buttonholes. And this tends to be the most challenging part for people. So taking your scrap pieces of canvas to practice on is going to be really helpful. And every buttonholer I've ever seen has been different. Some machines actually have an attachment so that you can choose the size that you want for your button, and you attach it just like this foot, and it draws it out nicely for you. I, rather than changing the foot, just use the manual buttonholer. So that's what I'm going to show. But again, everyone is different, so I encourage you to practice on your piece. So if you are choosing to put fur on your moccasins, you're going to put your buttonholes right at the top, so that actually when it does the fold down, the ties are going to be on the inside. If you're not putting fur, then we're going to go an inch down so that the buttonholes are going to land on the outside of your moccasin upper. So you're going to find center, which is usually this nice crease here. These moccasins do not have fur on them, so I'm going to fold them down and make a crease, and then mark where I want my buttonholes to be on either side of the moccasin. And my buttonholer starts at the bottom, goes back and forth, and then goes up, and then goes across, and goes back down. So I'm going to select my buttonhole, and then you have to change your length to between 0 and 1, and then you choose your width. And I usually like to do a nice wide buttonhole. So I'm going to put my foot down, and then I've got this fancy guy down here, and it says push, so I'm going to push it and make sure that my needle is where I want it to start, and I'm just going to go, it's going to go back and forth automatically and then immediately go up. So there it goes, it's going up, and I just have to watch for the right height. So I stop, and then I pull that buttonholer thing to the front. And now I like to lift my foot and move my piece over a little bit, just to give me a little bit more extra cutting space. And then here it comes back down. Gotta watch it. And then reverse it. And that's it. I'm gonna leave my needle in there and just slide my work over. And line it up with my next guy. Push my buttonholer back again. It's going back and forth, and now it's going up. Woo! Got the right height. Pull it forward again, move, lift my foot up a little bit, move my piece over. Coming back down slowly, reverse. And that is it. Cut it. And now, I've done this enough that I can just fold and snip. But if you want to make sure that you're not going to cut your buttonhole stitching, you can put a pin at the top and go across, and put a pin at the bottom and go across, and then that way when you cut, you can't cut through the back and forth stitching at the bottom and the top, but if you're not careful, you'll dull your scissors. So you can either take a snip with your scissors and then go in and just make it bigger until it finishes, or you can also take your stitch ripper and go in, and that way you wouldn't dull your scissors. So I'm just going to be bold, do it the fast way, and then you just grow your hole until it reaches either side. And there's your buttonholes. Trim up your edges, or your little tiddly bits here. And now we are ready to turn it into a tube. So we've got our binding tape at the bottom, decorative ribbon partway up, supporting logo, woot woot, buttonholes, and now it's the same step for whether you're going to put fur on or not. You're turning it into a tube. You're going to turn it wrong side out, and we've got our sew line now. So we're going to line up both the binding tape, the edges, and hopefully our decorative ribbon lines up. Give it a couple pins. All facing in the same direction. It's nice to pin it at the decorative ribbon to make sure that that's going to line up. And down at the bottom, we're going to do a straight stitch on the sew line, and then right next to it we're going to do a really short and wide zigzag. So make sure you take it off your buttonhole, find your straight stitch, increase your length to about 2, and there we go on our sew line. Back and forth, couple stitches. Take your pins out before you get to them. I like to go back and forth a few times on the binding tape here. Leave my needle in, lift the foot, spin it around, you can fold it up. And then you have to lift your foot, but leave it in the same spot. Go to your zigzag, decrease your length to about 1. Put your foot back down, and away we go. Going right beside your stitch sew line, but on the outside. Put it down, spin it around. If you want, you can go back for good measure. Back and lift and cut. And a nice zigzag. So we're going to just trim off all of this excess. And it's as if we had a serger. Woo woo. Boom. Okay. Next step is the roll down. So we pull out this tray. Ooh, fancy. Most sewing machines have that. If you've got one that doesn't, you can still do this, but you just have to be more careful. So this is going to be the roll down. We'll roll it down so that our buttonholes are at the top. And then you're going to pin it. You're going to do a little roll down, just enough so that your edge is going to be tucked under. And you can pin it all the way around. Or, what I like to do, make sure you switch it back to straight stitch. Increase your length a little bit. I like to put my needle down on that fold and then hold and tuck as you go. So go back and forth. Pull this so it's nice and taut, and then before you get to it, just tuck your edge. Life hack. Tuck. Pull and tuck. Cut it, and just make sure you've caught it all. And that is it. You can do the big reveal. Trim off all your little ends. Bam! Yay! Very nice. Very nice. My ribbon didn't line up perfectly, but affection without perfection, right? So now we have to turn them inside out. So you get to look how great they look. Flip it back. And we are ready to attach the upper to the lower. Don't forget you have two, so make sure that you sew up your second one. So you can replay the video and repeat, and then we will attach our upper to our lower.